dear friends. It's Carly, and welcome to this episode of the I Learned podcast. Have I mentioned that I really love to learn? Because I do. I really, really do. This morning, I have had beautiful morning time. My morning time is my daily self-care practice, my morning ritual. It's where I check in with myself. It's where I point myself in a positive direction. I journal, I pull tarot cards, I drink coffee, I listen to fun content. I build a bubble of energy around myself that has all my favorite things. And I get myself to feel as good as I possibly can at the start of every day. And then I let life unfold from there. I've done my part. The best I can do is achieve a good attitude and a good outlook. And from there, the universe reflects that to me. So for the most part, every day is pretty good. And today is like, I don't know, it's like 10:30 in the morning, and we are off to a great start already. One of my absolute favorite things to do, the most satisfying things to do, is to learn. Which maybe you knew that, since this podcast is called I Learned, and that's obviously my favorite thing to talk about. But this morning, after my amazing morning time, I was absolutely in the mood to come in here and record and come into this place that feels so good to spend time in. And I drew some tarot cards. I knew that I could feel that there were a few cards that were going to help highlight what this conversation, today's conversation, what it was going to be about, because I really didn't have anything specific in mind. And I drew those cards, and I didn't flip them over just yet. I needed to get myself situated. I really needed to go to the bathroom. I needed more coffee in my cup. I needed more water. So like, dogs needed to go out. So I did all of that. And when I came back to the cards that were drawn but not flipped over, the mermaid jar caught my attention, and I was like, ooh, yeah, let's draw a topic out of the mermaid jar. See how that adds to today's conversation. That just felt like the best thing I've ever thought of. And so I open the mermaid jar, and I go to pick one out, and I really take my time fishing around in there to find the right one. And when I got it out and unfolded it, it said manifester. And manifester is my human design type. And from the title of the episode, you know that is what we're going to talk about. I'm just going to go right into it. Lately, I've been doing quite a bit more intro than that, but I have just I drew that topic out of the mermaid jar probably over an hour ago, and I've been falling down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole on Google, learning all of these different things about human design, because up until an hour ago, the only thing that I knew about human design is that I'm a manifester. It takes the same information as pulling your natal chart. So like, you can pull your human design chart with your date of birth, the time, and the location that you were born. So that's all you need, and it's free. And I'll put the link to pull your human design chart in the description of this episode in case you're interested. But that's really, I'm just gonna nerd out for a while about all these fun things that I learned this morning, because holy freaking shit, this is so powerful. And I think the most powerful piece of it is that it all came together for me to learn all of these things today, because I was introduced to human design, would have been probably right around 2 years ago, by my friend Jody. Jody's the one that recommended my life coach Melissa to me. And so Jody is the one that taught me about human design. And again, she didn't know a lot about it, but she knew that, it definitely resonated. She's a manifester like me. And so we would talk about that just in general, the type of, being a manifester in human design. There are 5 human design types. There are manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. And whichever type you are, you can read about what that means. And I'm going to start with just reading a couple things about human design, like what it is specifically. So this one says, how do you explain human design? Human design is known as the science of differentiation because it shows how different we are. What is defined within us, as in our centers, channels, and gates, is who we are. These are the ways we are designed to express ourselves. And when it says centers, channels, and gates, it's referring to energy centers, energy channels, and energy gates that are within our physical form. So that's the part where I have not I haven't dove into it far enough to understand like the complexities of all of that. And actually looking at the chart, it's a lot like looking at a natal chart. There's just a ton of information in a tiny little space. But the science of differentiation, showing how we're each different, I do get that. I understand that we are all completely unique in our soul's individual essence. Another description is human design is a holistic self-knowledge system combining astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, and Vedic philosophy. Human design was originated by Alan Robert Krakauer, who published a book called The Human Design System under the pseudonym Ra Uru Hu in 1992. That was some weird stuff to say. I hope I pronounced it all right. So that's human design, just kind of in a nutshell. That's the goal, is to, like every other tool that I ever bring forward on this podcast, the goal is to understand ourselves better and the power that comes with understanding ourselves. And when I very first learned about human design from Jody, that all I learned basically was that I'm a manifester, and what that means, the main thing that Jody helped me understand that it means, is that my energy is very inconsistent. It comes in waves. There are highs and there are lows. And the lows are periods of charging and restoration to rebuild my energy. And the highs are me spending that energy that I rebuilt. And then I will be without energy and I will have to go back into a low period and rebuild and recharge my energy. And that cycle, that up and down cycle, is basically how my energy fluctuates. And that right there felt like a big enough realization where I didn't ever really dig into human design. For one thing, like I said, the chart is very complicated looking. There's a lot of information to it. So it didn't call to me. I didn't dig into it. I just kind of left it there, appreciating being able to understand that my energy is inconsistent because of my design, and that my whole life I had kind of beat up on myself for this inconsistent energy, for, when I'm low, like when I'm in a low period, there's no like fake it till you make it. There's no just put on a happy face and get out there. Like, no, like I'm plugged into the wall, can't go anywhere. I'm in my low period. Like there's no faking energy when I don't have it. And that was really, really, really empowering, and just felt like a relief that this isn't random. It's not out of control. It's actually really predictable that, when I'm flying high, I naturally understand that a rest period will follow. And when I get into the low period, I now refer to it as a rest period, not a low period. So all of those things came out of me learning human design 2 years ago. And for the time and for where my frequency was at, for where my consciousness was at, my overall level of understanding myself, that was plenty. I didn't need to know more than that. I wasn't ready to know more than that. And then this morning, I draw manifester out of the mermaid jar. And obviously I put it in there because it was a big step along my path to even learn, that my energy's up and down and that that's okay. Because when I'm in that high flying space, manifestors can basically get higher, can get to a higher energy than basically any other type, because they swing from these two extremes of like really, really low, which is also lower than any other type, and really, really high. So like they have access to these ends of the spectrum. And so it's a matter of appreciating that, we have access, or that I have access to the top of this spectrum, and riding out and embracing the lows and appreciating the diversity in perspective. And it is what it is, and just ride the energy for what it is in that moment and allow that to unfold however it will. Don't try to control the energy and make it be something that it's not. So that's how it works when you're a manifester. If you have a different one of those types, like what I mentioned of, manifestors is one, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors are the other four. So if you're one of those other four types, your energy supply and functioning is going to look different. That's the whole point. How is your unique energetic system wired? That is what I think human design is ultimately trying to explain. So that is what I learned before. What I learned today is a lot. Basically, I was sitting there here just a few minutes ago before I got on here to record, and I had probably like 20 different tabs open in my browser that were all the different Googles and things that I had looked up, and questions, and understanding like, what does it mean if your center is defined, and what is your inner authority, and what's your strategy, and what's your not self theme, and what's your profile, and what's your definition, and what's your incarnation cross. And like, these are all the little things that are in the human design chart, and I'm not going to talk about all of those today. I have no doubt that I'm going to come back and add to this story, this human design story, with some of these other pieces. But today, the piece that I'm going to talk about, and you can't find hardly anything on it when you Google it, but I did find something, and so we're going to talk about it because it blew my freaking mind. The Incarnation Cross. That's what we're going to focus on today, is the Incarnation Cross. And I just I'm so freaking happy that I didn't get into it before today, and that I am where I am right now reading this, because I think it would have, there's a reason that I didn't find this until now. So I'm very grateful for how all of that comes together. So I am going to share, before I get into my incarnation cross, because my example, I feel like demonstrates how freaking powerful this information is. So what is an incarnation cross? I have two explanations here, two different versions. One says it is the path or storyline that you are designed to live out during your life. It's not an inevitable fate. You can choose to not live that path, but most of the time we can't help but express our cross, at least partially, because it's what comes naturally to us. So that makes sense. It's kind of the theme of our life. The second option, or the second version, is the human design incarnation cross on our chart is the form that our unique expression of life takes. It isn't a destiny, since it's not a destination. It's more of an energy or role that we inhabit when we are living in our full expression, and also as we are working our way to living in our full expression. And that is something that I did read about it, that and this goes back to being so grateful that I'm only learning about this now, is basically you only experience your incarnation cross when you are living, as I've been saying it, living the life that your soul came here to live. When you're practicing your authenticity, you are experiencing your incarnation cross. And when you're at war with yourself and you're making decisions based on what other people want, you're not drawing from your inner authority, which is a whole section on this, your inner authority. When you're not drawing on that, when you're not living in alignment with your energetic makeup, your incarnation cross likely sounds somewhat foreign to you. And the thing is, like 2 years ago, I probably would have recognized this, and all it would have done is piss me off that I wasn't living it yet. And all it did today was make me laugh, because it's exactly like I've spent 5 years leaning more and more and more towards what does my soul want? Moment by moment, question by question, what does my soul want? And my life has become more and more and more a reflection of that. And here I am 5 years later, and my life, it looks exactly like my incarnation cross. And I am going to tell just a little bit of like more detail to the story of how I came to read this, because it's really funny, or really mind-blowing is what it was. So I searched, well, like my general, when I'm learning or when I'm teaching myself on Google, like I'm looking at my human design chart, and it has all this shit on there that I have no idea what it means. And I was actually looking at my chart side by side with Dolly's chart and Denitria's chart, and just to see like what's the same and what's different. And I noticed that we all three had different incarnation crosses. Some of the other stuff was the same between the three charts. And so for whatever reason, the incarnation cross stuck out to me because they were all three different. And the other thing I wanted to add also was how many incarnation crosses there are. Let me re-Google that really quick. Yep, there we are. 768 basic incarnation cross variations. So that means that, like, yes, there are 7 billion people on the planet. So some of these things, like one of them is, well, I mean, for example, there's only 5 types. There's only five human design types. So there's a lot of all of the different types. So it really is about all of the different pieces of the human design chart that tells us exactly how different we each are and the unique ways that we are wired. But in the incarnation cross section specifically, there are 768 options that you can have. So I thought, wow, okay, that must be like really, really specific information about your soul, to go from there being 5 options that we can choose from to having 768 options that we can choose from. So on my chart, it tells me that my incarnation cross is the left angle cross of education. And let's see, left angle cross of education. Yes, left angle cross of education. Sorry, I had somebody else's chart pulled up still. Okay, so that's what it called it. And so when I'm teaching myself anything, I see, okay, left angle cross of education. No idea what that group of words means, or what a left angle about it is, or what the cross part is, or whatever. So I just Google left angle cross of education. And one of the first search results is an incarnation cross list of all the different 768 options, which you can tell because the scroll bar is tiny and it's really, really long. But I start scrolling, and before too long, I get to the left angle cross of education 2. And some of them have 2s and some of them don't, and I know nothing about it. So I'm like, okay, well, this is probably it. And the 2 is maybe like a footnote indicator or something. I don't know. It's my best guess, but this is basically what I was searching for. And so I read the left angle cross of education 2, and it says, you have the cross of education and the energy that supports the value of education. You are designed to be a proponent of education because it is a vehicle for us to gain a better understanding of who we are. As we understand who we are given a chance to evolve. Education is the basis of that evolution, and you are here to be involved and help make it available to all. And that right there blew my mind, that out of 768 options, here I am on my podcast called I Learned, where my only goal is to promote things that I've learned that I found really beneficial. And so all of that just sounded like, wow, yes, I can totally believe that that's my incarnation cross or whatever. That's my soul's purpose. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And so at that point, I back out of it and want to know, like, what is Dolly's incarnation cross? What is Demetria's incarnation cross? And I want to read theirs on this list. And so I go get one of the other ones and I go back to the top of the list and I start scrolling again. I don't see the one I'm looking for, and I pass by the left angle cross of education 2, the one I just read. And I keep scrolling because I haven't seen what I'm looking for yet. And a few entries later is the left angle cross of education. That's it, all by itself, no two. And I'm like, well, crap, that wasn't mine. This one's mine. So, okay, like that one already was like so freaking close to resonating exactly with who my soul is. Like, how can this one be any better? Oh, it's better. It's way better. So, the left angle cross of education. You are here to educate by way of the lecture. Your style is not really about sharing, but more about expounding to the masses who are ready to hear your message. When living within your type and strategy, you will find an audience who is open and receptive to hear what you have to say. You are here to deliver the word in whatever field that you happen to have a passion for. And I was like, oh, so that's how it's better. So yeah, that's if I had read that 2 years ago while I'm managing a grocery store for like 60 hours a week, and other than that, I'm sleeping basically. Like I was doing self-care every morning, which was basically maintaining my sanity. But there wasn't a whole lot of time for even my own education if it didn't have something to do with grocery stores. And there was definitely not time to educate anybody else unless it was training my employees at the grocery store. So, expounding to the masses who are ready to hear my message, even though that felt like my dream from like the time I was little, I did not have space for that in my life 2 years ago. And so, the universe, source, my inner being, law of attraction, whatever, I wasn't ready. So, I wasn't led to that information. And today I'm ready and I'm led to the information about my incarnation cross, this left angle cross of education that says, I want to give a voice to the message that's running through me. I want to learn as much as I can for my own soul's evolution and then share what I've learned and put it out there in a way that I love what it says in the other one, the left angle cross of education 2, where it says, make it available to all. I feel like one of my favorite things to do, one of my soul's gifts, one of my superpowers, however you want to put it, is taking something that's really complicated and making it simple. Making it simple enough that anybody could digest that information and get something empowering out of it, get something out of it that helps them understand themselves better. And like it said, when you understand, you have a chance to evolve. And that choice to evolve, like all you have to have is a self-awareness and then you can evolve. That's why they say the first step to solving a problem is knowing that you have a problem, admitting that you have a problem, recognizing that there is a problem. And from there, the solution is inevitable. So like, this is just, it's very, very satisfying and delicious that this morning I randomly pull Manifester out of the mermaid jar and get to this new nugget of information about incarnation crosses and the left angle cross of education, which I feel like sums up exactly what I was born to do, exactly what my soul wants to do. When it said that, you can choose not to live that path. You don't have to live that path, but you probably will, just because it's what comes naturally to you, just because like it's what your soul wants to be doing anyway. So if you're choosing that you don't want it, most likely you're living according to what other people want for you. And that's making it hard to understand and live by what your soul wants, which it sounds like is your incarnation cross. So yeah, I'm going to put a link to the website where you can get your human design chart. and the website where I read the Incarnation Cross list, where you can search on that page and find out of the 768 options which Incarnation Cross you were born with, and see what it sounds like. If you're called to look at it, I would say you're probably ready to receive it. And if it doesn't sound like something that you need to know about right now, then I would say just leave it alone, because maybe someday it will, and I trust that that will be the right time. So yeah, I hope this has been just as fun for you as it has been for me. Like I said, I can tell you I will most likely be back with more episodes about each of the pieces of the human design chart. So yeah, stay tuned for those. And until next time, dear friends, you take good care of yourself, and so will I.